Okay, so when I made the movie review of Inside Out, I stated that I'm going to make a list of my favorite Pixar films. And so, since there's only 15 Pixar films out there right now, I might as well make a top 10 and a worst 5, so all 15 Pixar films will be covered in these two videos. My number 10 is some people's favorite Pixar film, so it's going to be a little controversial, but here's the thing. Pixar is really great. All 10 of these films that I'm about to count down are pretty much 4.5 stars or higher. So this top 10, there's not really a bad film in my opinion in these top 10. So yeah, even though it's the lowest in my 10, it's really a great movie in my opinion. And so number 10 is Up. Now, like I said, Up is a really fantastic film, and it really hits you in the first couple minutes of the actual movie. It is emotional and it is tragic. But really, that intro to the movie is pretty much the most talked about thing of Up. Not many people talk about the adventure and the talking dogs and all the rest of the stuff after that intro, because its greatest thing is the intro. Again, that's not to say that everything else after that intro is bad. Personally, it is a 4.5 star movie for me, but overall it's mainly just an adventure, but it does have some emotional attachment to the whole adventure. The building relationship between our two main characters was very heartwarming, and the main character becomes a father figure to our young scout. Now, when I talk about a Pixar film, I usually say there's at least some sort of emotional punch in the movie, and Up has quite a few, but overall it is just my number 10. Alright, I won't talk too much about number 9 because I just made a review of it not too long ago. My number 9 is the newest Pixar film, Inside Out. And it was really hard for me to choose which one should be 10 and 9, because while Up has this emotional, awesome intro and I can connect with the characters a little bit more, for some reason I love the ideas of Inside Out, and so it was hard to choose which one should be 10 and 9, but eventually I decided, you know what, I'll give it to the new one. It's number 9, and let's continue on. Now, number 8 is a big surprise for me because, honestly, it was one of the only Pixar films where I saw the trailer and I really wasn't that interested in it. But then when I eventually saw it, I was hooked on it. It is pretty amazing. So number 8 is Ratatouille, and this is a difficult one for me to place because it keeps going up and down on my list. It's not really as emotional and it's not as great as Up and Inside Out, but what I think Ratatouille has going for it is extremely fun and quite creative. It's one of those films where every time I see it I keep thinking, my God, this is really great. Why do I have it so low on my list? Because there's so many great things about it. There's some incredible action sequences in Ratatouille, which you wouldn't really expect, but it's mainly him having to go through this huge giant human world, you know, and he's this rodent, and so everything is big, everything is dangerous, everything could easily kill him. And it's just what you would expect from the same person that created The Incredibles, so yeah, it is action-packed. Surprisingly, even though it's about a rat wanting to be a chef. Again, there are some silly moments, but overall, I think Ratatouille is just a really fun Pixar movie. It's one of the movies from Pixar that I just have a blast watching every time I see it. Alright, number 7 is another big one, but then again, almost all these films are big ones because Pixar brings out some really great movies. They haven't done so lately. I'm a little bit more of a DreamWorks fan at this moment because they're bringing in better movies. But overall, Pixar, you can't deny, has a really great track record. And number 7 is Toy Story 3. I know, Toy Story 3 is one of the best Toy Story movies out there, people say. And how could you have it at just number 7 in this top 10 list? Well, I gotta say, Toy Story 3 is pretty much a copy of Toy Story 2. Granted, even though I wasn't a fan of Toy Story 2, I did like Toy Story 3, even though I know it's pretty much almost the entire plot is a complete copy. But then again, what Toy Story isn't a copy of itself? It's pretty much similar plotline throughout all three films. But I think what Toy Story 3 has going for it and why it is my favorite Pixar film that I've given 4.5 stars to is because it feels very relatable to me, because Andy is pretty much the same age I was when I saw Toy Story 3. It's sort of like the Harry Potter books, where you read it and the character pretty much grows the same rate as you do, if you started reading the Harry Potter books around the same time that Harry Potter was the same age as you. And the whole ending was pretty fantastic and very touching, and let me tell you, there wasn't too many dry eyes in that theater when it came to the crazy garbage disposal incinerator. Okay, number 6 is another personal favorite for some people, but then again, what Pixar movie isn't? Monsters, Inc. I think this came out a perfect time for me because I think I was probably in the teens. I think it was it 2003? Or something around there. And ever since I was a young kid, I was fascinated by monsters because I grew up watching R-rated, crazy monster and horror movies, and I always loved monsters. So when Monsters, Inc. comes around and it tries to show a different and secret life for monsters and how they scare children to produce energy for their own society, and it was pretty fascinating. I love the relationship between Boo and Sully, and it was pretty heartwarming at the end. And looking back at it now, I love all the voices in Monsters, Inc. A lot of familiar stars, a lot of people that I like as comedic actors, and I dig Monsters, Inc. So again, number 5 is yet another Toy Story movie, and it is my favorite Toy Story movie, and it is the original. So come on, it was very imaginative, it was different, it was, I think, one of the first CG or the first CG cartoons. And it laid the groundwork for a Pixar film, and you gotta love the original. Plus, when I was younger, I watched a lot of R-rated films, and so when there was a dark moment in animated movies, I loved them even more. And Sid's bedroom, man. Sid and how he treated those toys, there's some dark stuff. Okay, number 4 is a little bit more unexpected, and some people might question why this is in my top 5, because it's probably not in many, and that is A Bug's Life. But you gotta understand, I was the right age. I got to see Toy Story and A Bug's Life. I believe I got to see them both in theaters. They're the first 2 Pixar films that I ever saw, and of course, I'm very nostalgic towards those 2 films. I remember in theaters when I saw Bug's Life, there was a moment where I could not stop laughing. And of course, it was during a dark and demented part because, as I told you before, I had watched a lot of R-rated films when I was younger, so those kind of things were really cool if they ever had it in an animation. And when they had that moment where the students drew up all these supposed warriors, which are actually just circus performers, when they drew a depiction of them battling against the grasshoppers, and they had one of them pretend they drew one of them dying. I think it was the caterpillar. They drew him being pulled in half or chopped in half. And I could not stop laughing. It was a graphic little children's drawing, and I still laugh to this day every time I see that little picture. So now we're getting to the big 3, and a lot of people will probably agree, and these 3 will probably be among the top 5 of most people's lists of best Pixar films. Number 3 is the most action-packed of all the Pixar films, and a really nice take on superheroes. Of course, I'm talking about The Incredibles. Yeah, I'm a big superhero fan. It was a little bit different in the light of superheroes and possibly superhero families, and it was a nice take. It was exciting. It was fun. and it's probably my favorite, no, scratch that, it is my favorite animated superhero film. Big Hero 6 was good too, but Incredibles kicks his ass, of course. Now, if any Pixar film could be considered artistic and pretty much like an art house film, I would say that WALL-E would be their indie art house film. WALL-E is my number 2 Pixar film. It's very heavy on its environmental themes, but there's so little dialogue in this movie and you understand everything. You can connect with the characters just as well as any other type of film. And it's pretty breathtaking. Okay, my number 1 was a little difficult because it kept jumping back and forth between Incredibles, WALL-E, and this movie. These were easily my top 3, and it was hard to pick an actual top 1, but I gotta go with something that's adventurous, something that is heartwarming, something that does have an emotional pull to it, and that is Finding Nemo. Okay, I know, it's probably an obvious pick. A lot of people might say Finding Nemo is their favorite, but overall, I do feel it's my favorite Pixar film, even though WALL-E and Incredibles are a very close second and third. Maybe in the couple years later, I might switch it up again, but for now, Finding Nemo is my favorite Pixar film, and yeah. Okay, so that was my top 10 Pixar films, and what is your top 5, or maybe just say your favorite? Whatever one works best for you. What is your favorite Pixar films? And as always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.